I'm Chris Montoya. I sell houses. This is Adam Hartman. He oversees education in Cañon City.
Yeah, I am right now. Actually, I'm overseeing the school district because our superintendent is on a bit of a hiatus. So yeah, that's been my role for the month of July.
So everybody's curious. Can you tell me a little bit about the planning process for the schools reopening?
Yeah, planning process has actually been really fascinating statewide because what we've seen is that different districts at different times have put out plans for reopening. And truthfully, a lot of school districts who did that early and made promises about it would look like this or it will look like that, they later had to change those plans because they didn't yet have enough clear guidance as to what actually would be permitted. And what I think is important, Chris, to understand for families is that ultimately we aren't scientists, we're educators. So our guidance from public health is here, and then our work was to figure out how education fits within those parameters. So, you know, honestly, it was only a week ago yesterday that we got final guidance on what reopening of school could look like. So then we as educators have worked really hard internally as an organization, but also externally with partners such as County Public Health to find out exactly what we can do and figuring out how we can do that in a safe way. So planning process has been all hands on deck. It's been a very busy summer and especially a very busy final week last week.
Well, and as you know, as science finds out new things about how to do things, of course that changes the rules for you guys too, and that kind of makes it difficult.
It does, and I think it's actually wise that you say that because one of the things that we've committed to with the community is even an acknowledgement that it might be that things change again. So we're trying to be flexible and trying to create a plan that is adaptable in the event that the restrictions or the new information changes our thinking.
No, for sure. Can you outline what CCSP's plan is for reopening?
Yeah, the school district has essentially, it's one plan insofar as we're trying to get as regular as can be. But what's different about it is that the guidance at the elementary level versus the middle school level versus the high school level is different. And the way that it's different is it actually limits the number of adults that can be with a cohorted group of students. So for us at the elementary level, that will be a more or less regular day insofar as we are going in person, we will start on our regular day, and we will honor the regular times for start and stop. At the middle school level, it gets a little bit more complicated because the limitation on the number of people, adult people, who can be with a cohort of kids actually got smaller as the kids get a little older. So at that level, we actually needed to create a plan where we could only rotate in 3 adults with a group of students during the day. And because of that, it made for a situation where we had to shorten the overall length of the school day because the length of the classes got really long when you only have a few teachers a day that can be with kids. So it's a little complicated, and we're certainly sensitive to that for families who have kids at different levels. At the high school level, because we're dealing with now over 1,000 students, we are using an A-B cohort. So my children, for instance, have the last name that starts with H. They'll be in the A cohort, and what that means is that they'll report for in-person learning Monday and Wednesday, and they'll do remote learning on Tuesday and Thursday. Kids that are in the second half of the alphabet will have a flip-flop of that. They'll be virtual Monday, Wednesday, and they're going to be remote on the Tuesday, Thursday. They'll be in person on the Tuesday, Thursday. It's really important that everyone here too, that Cañon City Schools has now offered full-time online option for families who feel safest with that. So we've put that up and running, starting with kindergarten.
Especially for people with immunity compromised immunities. I'm sorry, I couldn't get that out there. So tell me a little bit about what are you guys going to do for masks? Are you going to be doing temperature checks, anything like that?
I'm glad you asked that question. We are getting a lot of that, so an opportunity to get that information out is good. Masks are required not by Cañon City Schools, but by a mask mandate that was put in place by the governor some time back now.
So you didn't have a choice on that?
Correct. With all students that are 11 years or up, and that's for any, such as this building, public indoor facility. And now, what was complicated about the mask mandate is that because they used age 11 and up, it really didn't speak to what we see as grades. We know that 5th graders are oftentimes 10 at the beginning of the year. Many of them are 11. And we didn't want to have a situation where we had 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds in the same room, but we had different expectations for kids just based upon their birth. As a school district, we can add an expectation to make it more requirement, and we did that in the case of masks starting at grade 5. So 5th grade students up through to end of school, they will be wearing masks, as will staff. All of our staff is 11 years old or older, so they'll be wearing masks as well. We will be doing temperature checks. We will have guidance in the buildings in terms of how we will establish and monitor flow of students through the building. And I mentioned earlier that kids will be cohorted.
So since we kind of narrowed down a few of the things we talked about, can you address maybe the staff issue just a little bit more so that it's clear what you're doing to keep families safe, what the staff's going to be forced to do?
I'm glad you asked that question too. So we're proud to have over 500 employees. We recognize that in this community we're a large employer, and we also recognize that schools are catching the attention nationally of being places where large groups of people can potentially come back to convene. So I just want to reiterate what I said earlier around our commitment to provide an in-person learning experience as much as we can do under the guidance which we've been given to keep it safe. So the same things that we're doing in terms of all the PPE, mask wearing, hand sanitation, temperature checks, monitor daily symptom checks, we're doing that for staff as well. And also that we've already figured out all of our responsibilities as an employer, that if and when somebody feels like, boy, I've had a close contact or my test is positive, that we have pieces in place for those guys, so we already have a plan of recourse for them.
So those guidelines are already kind of set, but just like anything else, honestly, some of these things can change just based on new information or based on new treatment.
Certainly learning that, yeah.
All right, well, here's where you get the curveball.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the question that's heavy on my mind because you know how I feel about sports.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with, what does the outlook look like? And I know it's not the most important thing, and I know there's a lot of other things, but this is one of the pieces that make me.
It's interesting you say I know it's not the most important thing. You know what?
It's not.
For a lot of kids, though, it's just as important, if not more important. We recognize that. We know that school is so much more than just academic coursework. Athletics and activities are a big part of the school experience. They're also a big part of what makes Cañon City schools great. We offer extracurriculars, some of which are storied programs, and lots of smiles and laughs and joy, and all of that comes along with it. So, obviously, our intention is anything that we can do that is permitted for us to do, we plan to deliver on that. But all of that is also beholden to CHASA. So CHASA right now is in a process of still fine-tuning and determining exactly which sports by which seasons will be eligible. There already have been some decisions that are unfortunate. For instance, recently the bandmasters decided that marching band, for instance, is not something that can take place for this fall season. Looks to me like they're making those decisions based on a seasonal basis, as we know, as we follow along with what's happened scientifically, but also trying to preserve as much as is possible, because that's part of what makes kids want to be at school. We get it. And if you were to look around this room right now, a lot of the photos highlighting our kids, it's not just about the academics. It's not just about the classroom. We know that it's bigger than that. So yeah, Chris, we will offer whatever we can offer, but we are beholden to public health and then thereby CHASA guidance.
Yeah. So I know you've been on the hot seat a little bit because, I mean, you're at the head of it, so naturally you'd have to be on the hot seat a little bit. Is there anything else you want to add, anything I didn't touch base on that you're thinking of process-wise?
No, I think you've done a really nice job. I think the only thing that I would really ask for from the community is to understand that this situation is dynamic. It is unprecedented, as everyone uses that word all the time, and that we are really trying to offer the most good for the most people. That's what we're doing here. I've had hard phone calls. I just got off one a moment ago with parents saying, yes, but this is inconvenient, and we recognize that. This whole thing is inconvenient for the planet, and we're trying to do our best by the community. So, but obviously within guidelines.
No, for sure. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. I know you're slammed, and I know you got to get back to it. I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.